Let's have a little more 23 degrees sideways. So we're going to talk about electioneering, election interference, or election fraud. Now, election fraud exists. If you've got humans and you've got competition, you've got cheating. There is no real exception to this. This is like a law of nature. Okay, whenever you get humans in groups and you have some sort of competitive thing, elections, sports, there is cheating. There will be cheating. You have to work with that reality. We're having some problems with the current election cycle, which isn't the important part of the video, because there has been a denial of the possibility or intent. And I think that it has been very one-sided. And once again, I'm going to go to the corporate media, the corporations, the actual billionaires, the people who are actually trying to control your thoughts and your consumerism, have been feeding you some information. They've done it very well, because this time they've had like a figurehead of evil so that they can totally distract you. You know, you listen to 120 minutes, 2 hours of CNN programming, not counting the commercials or whatever. Actual 120 minutes of programming. 90 minutes of it will literally be Trump. Like, they literally are not reporting news. The other 30 minutes will be some other news that they can tie to pulling your attention back to Trump and making him negative. They have a demon. They have something they can tell you all the time. Focus your attention on. Never let you think. Like, you literally cannot go to the store without thinking about some aspect of the culture war, but specifically Donald Trump. And this has been going on for years. You know, as a mind fuck, it's amazing, right? Okay. Election interference, election cheating, okay? I hate to use the word fraud because... So here's the thing. I have a friend. Once again, we're going to talk about Mr. P. And he's been telling me repeatedly, just in offhanded comments, like that, you know, the Republicans talk about election cheating. Trump talks about cheating, election fraud, fraud, and it's all fake. It's not. That's the problem. Now, if you say fraud, then depending on where the conversation goes, it can be a very general or a very specific term. So if someone is on that side of the fence saying the claims of fraud are made up, then when you start to argue against it, the definition of fraud will become very legalistic and narrow. Well, that kind of irregularity or cheating or crime isn't fraud. It's something else, some other crime. Okay? It's something that people would call election fraud. However, and then, you know, my mother-in-law did this a couple of years ago, if a Republican has to move a polling place a couple months before the election because of ADA access, then it's fraud, even though it's not fraud. The word changes depending on how you're using it, so I prefer to not really use it. I like election cheating. Okay, I like the idea of just calling it cheating. It's all various forms of cheating. That's what it is. The goal is to give yourself an unfair advantage or win unfairly. Win unfairly, outside of the rules. Gaming the system is different. Not always moral, not always ethical, but generally different. It's not actually cheating. We have actual cheating going on. We've always had actual cheating going on. Generally speaking, it's very minor when it comes to federal races. Like, we have a pretty decent system, historically speaking. But people have to know that and trust that. And when you look at something like what happened, various states in New England with the primaries and the mail-in ballots and all the crap that happened earlier this year in 2020, and you tell people that it's not a problem, it doesn't exist, to ignore it, they're not going to trust the election system, because you're not saying, hey, this is absolutely a problem, it's limited to this district, and it's going to get fixed. No, you're denying that it exists. You need to stress the importance that you place on it, not try to tell people that they're wrong and they're stupid. Okay? I'll get to Florida in another video. Speaking of telling people they're wrong and they're stupid, backfiring on you. Okay, so there is cheating happening. And right now, a lot of the cheating is symbolic, or a lot of the suspicions are symbolic. Like, people are blacking out the windows in election counting areas. And, you know, there's issues with that. There's stuff surrounding that that's like, I understand that there are reasons to do that, but, you know, Washoe County in Nevada is live streaming the counting. They can black out the windows. That's fine. There are reasons to do so. They have a live stream. I'm good with that. You know, people are bringing in coolers and wagons and bags and boxes into the polling places to do the counting. You just can't have that. I know that you want to have a drink, you know, your soda, your water, whatever. You're counting ballots at this point. You probably want tequila. You know, maybe a sandwich. But you can't. You can't. Okay, you can't bring anything with you to the table. You have to leave it somewhere, okay? You have to have like a separate room, a separate facility. We have to have the election security. You can't do that. We know that there's a certain amount of cheating every election, which means that you have to do the basic common sense, obvious, comfort level security measures. I am fully aware that I could probably get 30, 40, 100 ballots into my clothes, concealed in a fashion that you would never be able to find. Okay, it's probably easier to put it in my coat than it is to put it in my lunch bag. But elections are about trust. Elections are as much about trust as they are about results. Okay, you need to make the trust match up with the reality, all right? But the trust is important. If you have a reality that the election is fair, but there's no trust, that's just as bad as having everyone trust the party and the party cheats all the time. Like, they're both bad. Okay, you have to have the trust and the reliability. And to get that trust, you're just gonna have to set the freaking lunch bag down in another room. Okay? Denying poll watchers access is another big one. And that one is always done in a partisan fashion. This is never a case where it's neutral. Okay? The effects may or may not be, but there's always some party in control of the government in a given locale. So that party is the one that's denying poll watchers access. And you can't run it that way. You can't have it run that way. Now, you can't get a nonpartisan thing. That would be like trying to assume that NPR is nonpartisan news. NPR absolutely has a vested interest and a bias. You can't, to deny that is idiocy. So what you have to do is you have to get together in advance, okay? And this election cycle, the whole in advance thing is something that I really don't understand the problems people are having with in advance. You need to have people of multiple parties at the door. They're two-person integrity for everything. If you're going to deny a poll watcher access, the persons doing that denial have to be on both sides and in agreement. Okay? And that's not happening. And that's bad. I mean, it's bad. There are going to be legal challenges out the butt. And it's very possible that some of those legal challenges are going to overturn results that would have held otherwise. Okay? That's probably going to shoot the corporate media in the foot because they're pushing things a little too hard. Cheating happens. Take it seriously. Stop being negative about people who are concerned about cheating. You have to absolutely stop doing that. If I say, hey, suddenly there's 10 times as many provisional ballots for the Republicans as there are for the Democrats in an area where there's always more Democrats, we need to look at this. You need to not tell me that there's nothing to look at. There's nothing to see here. Something is different. Something is odd. We got to look at it. If I come up with 800 people on Twitter and Facebook who have gotten AVs when they try to cast their ballot, that means already voted. So they're casting provisional ballots. You can tell me it's all anecdotal, and that's fine, but you have to take it seriously. You have to be like, okay, that is definitely a problem. We need to resolve the problem. There is a problem. We need to resolve it. We need to figure it out. You can say, yes, it's a problem, and it's, 1/100th of 1% of the voters, but that doesn't matter because it's all about the individual sovereign franchise. And I said that word sovereign, and man, that's going to make all of you people angry. But it is. It's all about the individual sovereign franchise. You have to care as much about one AV as you do about gerrymandering and a district of 500,000 people. You have to, it's just as important. Or you don't have a democracy, let alone a republic. Okay? If every vote counts, then every vote counts. And you have to be place just as much importance on the anecdotal AVs as you do on your partisan investigation Senate stuff. All right? We've got a large number of irregularities. It's obvious that, it's been obvious to anyone that we would have them because we just ramped up some very insecure systems and methods of voting and just crammed them down people's throats with the excuse that we didn't have any other options, but we had months and months of options. And now there's lawsuits because even with 4 months of time to get your ballot in, people haven't done it yet. So the day after the election, you're supposed to still be able to vote, which that's not going to go far. I don't think it's going to go far. I think there's a point where the law becomes the law and the rules become the rules, and the courts, as partisan as they sometimes are, just aren't going to go. They're not going to run with it. So we'll see how that goes. More coming soon. We got to talk about that anecdotal evidence. Stay sideways.